Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show and this special open mic, the afternoon show we do, where all we do is take your live questions, talk about stuff, everything that's going on, and it's all just interactive and live stuff. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Thanks so much for being here today, guys. Sorry, I had a little bit of a mishap getting everything going, so we're running just a couple minutes late, but I got everything fixed up, as you can tell here, so we're off and running. Okay, so here's how today's show is going to go, guys. Now, I was experiencing some technical difficulties earlier. I'm going to be able to get all of them fixed a little bit later, but unfortunately, I was having some issues getting video playback on my streamer, so I'm not going to be able to take the live video question or the video questions that you guys sent in normally. I will get back to those on Monday. On Monday, I'll start running the video questions that you guys sent in again. I'm not going to be able to run them today, but that's okay. We got plenty of live interactive questions coming in. You know we're going to talk about the Michael Bay thing. I mean, that's just going around. I'm sure some of you are probably going to ask about 50 Shades or want to talk about the Venom trailer or about anything else that's going on in the world of movies, and that's what we're going to do here today. So let's get things started, and we're going to start off with this. We're going to go over, first of all, to a couple of questions that I didn't get around to answering on the John Campea Show a little bit earlier today. So let's get started with those. And we're starting off with this. The first question I didn't get around to was, Shri S writes in, "Hey John, hope you don't mind another personal question for me, but have you on camera said something and then later regretted saying it? If so, what?" Oh, well, I mean, look, I, for a living, get on camera live every day for between 45 minutes to an hour talking. Of course, I say things that later I watch and go, oh, damn, did I really say that? I mean, obviously that happens. If you did it, it would happen 20 times a day. It happens to me, for sure. Now, I can't think of any specifics off the top of my head, but I just know it happens all the time. It happens absolutely all the time where I say something, and because, you know, when you're in a conversation with somebody and something comes out wrong, the person you're talking to goes, "Do you mean this?" And you go, "Oh, yeah, and go on. But I'm sitting here by myself, no one to go, "Wait, John, wait, what?" And I don't catch it until like later. So absolutely it happens. It's totally a human thing. I do it. Everybody does it. So absolutely it's happened to me. Tracy E writes, "Is Venom a villain or a hero? If he is a villain, how will that work in a movie?" No, he'll be a hero. Maybe he was a villain. Maybe he's got darkness in him he needs to hold back. But as in every movie, he's going to be a hero. There's absolutely no doubt he's going to be a hero. NV8 Pride writes, I skipped my other chat. Patrick Bateman, I think you mean Jason Bateman, as Bill. Adam Scott as Eddie. Bill Hader as Richie. Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mike. Jason Clarke as Stanley. Josh Hartnett as Ben. And Jessica Chastain as Bev for It Too. I mean, hey, look, sure. I mean, you know my feeling. Any X actor in any X role, as long as X actor is pretty good, sure. So if they announce that tomorrow, sure. A bunch of these are some really good actors, so sure, why not? I'm also up for totally different cast, but if that was announced tomorrow, sure, I'd be all for it. Anthony C. writes, "Thoughts on The Sopranos? Just binged it and I love it." Oh yeah, The Sopranos is considered by some people to be the greatest television show ever made. I mean, I don't consider it to be the greatest television show ever made. That belongs to Battlestar Galactica, in my opinion. But a lot of people love it. I loved it. It's, and you know what? I think I like, the more I think about it, I think I like the way the show ended with just the screen going black. That's still to this day something a lot of people debate and talk about. But I think for me, the more I think about it, the more I kind of like it. I think. Anyway, let's see. Devontae Brown writes, Johnny misunderstood. I said parts on purpose. I know it's a small area. I ultimately need to remember that actors are flawed just like us. I got a lot of crap from people here. Oh, that happens. Hey, look, I get crap from people on here all the time, and it's my show. All right. With that out of the way, let's get over now to the live questions that you guys are sending in to me. Of course, you can use the super chat function. It's the way to guarantee your question gets on, and it's a great way to support my channel as well. Thank you for doing that. And if I still have time and we get through all the super chat questions, I will go over to Twitter. All right, let's get things rolling here. Jose M writes, right off the bat, DC rumor, Michael Bay directing Lobo. Your thoughts? Okay, so it's actually a little bit more than a rumor. The Wrap is reporting that Michael Bay, Warner Brothers is trying to sign Michael Bay to direct Lobo. As a matter of fact, they've even let him come in. They let him read the script they have. They've let him come in and give notes. And now their screenwriter is going to rewrite the script based on Michael Bay's notes. And then, according to this report in the Wrap, if Michael Bay likes what he sees, then he'll direct the film. Now, let's see here. 22 minutes ago, I put up a poll on my Twitter asking you guys a simple question. Serious question I wrote on my poll. And honestly, no wrong answer here. But does any comic book movie fan want Michael Bay directing a Lobo film? And here are the results right now. I put up the poll 22 minutes ago. We've got 1,413 people have responded so far. 16%, and I'll admit, that's a higher number than I thought. 16% are saying yes, they want to see a Lobo movie directed by Michael Bay. 84%, which is a smaller number than I thought, 84% say, oh God, no. 16%, hell yes. 84%, oh God, no. You can pretty safely put me under the oh God, no column. Oh God, no. That's pretty much where I'm at. Now look, if you guys have been watching me for any period of time, you know I am a minor Michael Bay defender from time to time. He's made a number of films that I like. Of course, he's made The Rock. I like Armageddon. 13 Hours I thought wasn't bad. I didn't think it was as great as some people thought. It wasn't bad like some other people thought, but I thought it was pretty good. And I really like the first Transformers movies. But if the Transformers are any indication, because the last slew of Transformers movies he have made have all been wretchedly awful. Like, not just bad, wretchedly awful. And if you like them, more power to you. That's awesome. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. But I had a hard time even staying in the theater watching these things. And this last one was just dreck. Awful, awful filmmaking. So if his Transformers track record is any indication about what he can and cannot bring to, like, for lack of a better term, geek culture kind of films, I don't want him getting anywhere near. And the humor, because the report says they're kind of looking at doing Lobo as their answer to what Fox is doing with Deadpool. Well, first of all, Warner Brothers, just do your own thing. Don't worry. You got great characters. Don't worry about making your answer to something Marvel's doing or your answer to something Deadpool's doing. Just make your films. You've got great characters. So just build good films around them. Don't worry. Don't make your motivation, well, Fox has got Deadpool with a big chunky comedy and everybody likes it. We'll make our answer to that and do it with Lobo and Michael Bay. Like, what? What? What the fuck are they thinking? What are they thinking? Michael Bay to do this kind of movie? Are you insane? This isn't like some unknown actor where we've never really seen what they've done, so we just got to go into it with a bit of trust and all. This is a director with a long track record. This is the guy who made Transformers 2, 3, 4, and 5, some of the worst cinematic dreck ever made, especially in the hundreds of $1 million blockbuster era. And this is the guy who failed on every level with his humor in the Transformers film, and this is the guy you want to direct a Lobo movie that is your answer to Deadpool and supposed to be really funny and humorous? This is the guy? I feel like a deer caught in the headlights. I don't get it. Up is down, cats and dogs living together. I mean, it's just, what? Like, this sounds, to me, like a fake story somebody would make up in The Onion just to highlight just how clueless right now Warner Brothers seems to be with what to do with their DC properties. It's like The Onion. I hope you know what The Onion is, because The Onion is awesome. It's almost like The Onion was like, how can we do a fake story about, like, just kind of highlights how clueless Warner Brothers is right now with their DCEU. I know, let's do a fake story about Michael Bay to direct Lobo as their answer to Deadpool. Wait a minute, what, it's real? It's real? It's real? I don't know, guys. I just, honestly, I keep trying. You guys watch me. I keep trying so desperately to be optimistic about the direction Warner Brothers is going, how they can turn things around. You've heard me. I'm constantly trying to be optimistic about what they're doing, looking on the bright side. of certain things. Being realistic, calling it as it is, but then looking forward, trying to be optimistic. They got smart people there. They're not just sitting back and repeating their same mistakes. They're going to right the ship. They're doing leadership changes. Well, you guys have heard me talk about it. But then they do shit like this. And all I'm sitting here just hoping that the rap is wrong about this. Please. I feel like Michael Scott. God, no, no. I feel like, please, dear heavens, and whatever deity you worship, don't be true. I just don't know what to say about this. I just don't know what to say about this. And I feel so bad. Because even the ones that hate me, like there are a bunch of DC fans who, for whatever reason, they think I hate DC, even though I've given every DCEU movie a positive review, but whatever. Even the ones that hate me, I feel badly for them right now. Because they invest so much of their fandom, so much of their love, so much of their support into DC, and Warner Brothers is doing something like this, getting Michael Bay to do a Lobo movie? Are you serious? And under the right circumstances, you guys know I'm a Michael Bay defender. You've heard I've taken a lot of shit from you guys defending Michael Bay in the right circumstances. I believe given the right film and the right timing, Michael Bay can direct a pretty half-decent movie. But this, what is the plan at Warner Brothers? What is the plan? Warner Brothers seems to do almost everything else right with every other movie they do, but with their DCEU, what are they doing? What's the plan here? Michael Bay? To do your answer to Deadpool? I don't know, guys. I feel like I just have to move on from this because I feel like I'm going to have a seizure at any moment just thinking about this. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? I'm sure this probably isn't the last question we're going to get about this. But, all right, we move on now to Luke1234 writes, how can I get a copy of The Anniversary? I'll be honest with you, Luke, even I don't have a copy of The Anniversary. I literally sold every single copy. I think we made I think my run was like 750 copies and like they all sold. So I sold all my copies. I've got digital. I'm thinking I might just release it on YouTube sometime, maybe even this year. I'll probably just put it out on YouTube and let whoever wants to watch it if you so choose. But that's how you'll probably get around to watching it eventually. Thank you so much for asking though, Luke. Aussie Nerd writes, how should Rotten Tomatoes be used? Because people use it to tell me if I'm wrong about a movie without context. Scores are meaningless without context. Well, no. Scores are just scores. Scores are just kind of objective numbers that sit outside of context or sit outside of circumstances. But remember, all a Rotten Tomatoes critic review number means is what percentage of the critic community like the movie. That's it. If a Rotten Tomato critic score has a 71, all that means is that in the critic community, 71% of them liked the movie and 29% of them didn't. That's all it means. It doesn't prove anything other than the only thing it proves is it proves whether, generally speaking, critics liked a movie or didn't. That's all it proves. A movie could have a 99% like Lady Bird, but that doesn't prove anything. I don't like Lady Bird. I acknowledge that the vast majority of the critic community do. I acknowledge that the vast majority of the other film fans do, but it doesn't prove anything other than it proves that the majority of critics like it. That's all it proves. Nobody can prove you wrong. If you don't like a movie, you're not wrong just because the Rotten Tomatoes score is high. If you do love a movie, that doesn't mean you're wrong just because the critic score is low. All of that's telling you is that in this movie critic community, of which everybody is wildly different from each other, you have a very hard time finding two film critics who have the exact same taste. But out of all of them, a certain percentage of them liked it, a certain percentage of them didn't, and that's all it means. That's all it means. I look at Rotten Tomatoes just as a good gauge, if I think, to really gauge whether or not it's likely that the average movie-going audience will like it. Yeah, there are some exceptions. Sometimes a movie will have a higher score than the audience actually likes. Sometimes a movie will have a lower score than what the general audience usually likes. But 95% of the time, it's actually pretty bang on. So that's all it proves. It doesn't prove anything else. It cannot prove your feelings of a movie right or wrong. It exists outside of context. So really, that's all it is, and that's all it means. But it's really great for what it is on that level. But that's all it is. That's all it is. All right, Devontae Brown writes, thanks for everything, John. Your insight is valued. One of my favorite internet people that helped me with good and bad times, especially some 2016 health issues. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Devontae, and I'm glad you got the health issues in 2016 in your rearview mirror, and I love having you as a viewer. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. Han Solo writes, what happened to that Will Poulter video? I just got busy. I was going to make a Will Poulter video. I had it all planned out in my head and everything. I even started writing out some notes about where is the Oscar buzz for Will Poulter. Because besides Patrick Stewart, the other guy that I thought was a lock for a Best Supporting Actor nomination was Will Poulter. And then I just got busy, and then the nominations got announced, and then my whole idea for a video became pointless, which happens more times than you think. And I just simply ran out of time, and I didn't get it done. So unfortunately, I didn't get that done. It's a shame that Will Poulter didn't get a nomination. I believe he did deserve one. He was just fan-frickin-tastic in Detroit. In Detroit. Or was it called? Oh, I'm losing my mind here. Anyway, he was fantastic in that movie. I loved him in it. Let's see. Han Solo writes, also thoughts on Joaquin Phoenix in talks to play Joker. Okay, so this just broke today, and I'm not even sure if you can say it broke per se, but it was in Variety. And Variety is saying that Joaquin Phoenix is in talks to play the Joker in Todd Phillips. That's the one that Martin Scorsese is going to be producing in his standalone movie. And they're calling it an exclusive. And there you see Joaquin with the Joker face, and they're talking about that. Here's the one confusing thing to me. And let me just bring this up because okay, let me bring this up. Here's the slightly confusing thing to me. When I was reading the initial concept of this Joker movie, the initial concept was a young Joker. Joaquin Phoenix is turning 44 this year. So, I mean, while I love Joaquin Phoenix as an actor, the notion, I've always felt firm. You don't change your story to fit the actor you're bringing in. You get the actor to come in that fits your story. And if your story is of a young Joker, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old Joker, then get somebody in that age range. Hell, even get somebody who's 30 to play somebody who's 25. That's fine. But Phoenix is going to be 44 years old this year. So that actually concerns me a little bit. It's like, oh God, if this is another situation that you're just going to change your story to fit the actor you're bringing in, because that's very rarely a good thing. So it does concern me. Of course, Phoenix is one of the best actors in the business today. We came this close to getting him as Doctor Strange, but he ultimately turned it down because he didn't want to sign a multi-film contract. With this one-shot Joker film, he wouldn't have to sign a multi-film deal, so that's not a big issue. But, I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this actually works out. It'll be interesting to see if this actually works out. Kobe writes, stop. Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3. The other side he see. What is your name? Arthur of Camelot. What is your quest? I seek the Grail. What is your favorite color? Blue. No red. No green. Anyway. Mason Barr writes, just wanted to say, made a deal with the wifey. If she goes to Black Panther, I'll see 50 Shades Freed. Missing the morning show tomorrow, unfortunately. Mason, you're paying a high price to go see Black Panther. You are paying a high price to go see Black Panther, my friend. Oh my God. You are paying. I just actually a little bit earlier today, I put up my my review of 50 Shades Freed. Bad film, man. Just a bad film. It just, oh, it's so awful. It's so awful. Let's do a quick check-in with that poll we put up. We're almost at 2,000 votes now. And right now, we're at 1,912, so another 500 people have checked in on this in the last 10 minutes. And it's still hovering at 16% to 84%. We will check back in. Action News with the updated poll on this a little bit later. Okay, let's move on here. Kevin Ostrander writes, "Hey John, been watching since AMC." Well, thank you so much, Kevin. What would you think of the Legacy of Kain PS1, PS2 video game series being adapted into movies? Any news on Spawn? Well, I'll take one of the questions. Look, if you want to try to adapt games, fine. The track record is horrible. So I don't see why Sony or another studio, we'll have to see what happens with Lara Croft, sorry. See if this turns things around, but I mean, World of Warcraft underwhelmed. Assassin's Creed was pit garbage. Now we've got the Lara Croft movie coming. I don't know if I'm a studio exec. I'm putting any money into any video game movie until somebody else does it right. Because so far they're 0 for 50 right now. And so I would kind of lean away from myself a little bit, to be honest with you. Hardy Buck 4. Speaking of Venom, what happened to Topher Grace? Don't know, man. He just stopped getting cast in a lot of stuff. So other than that, I really don't know. It's an interesting question. If anybody's got good links to articles about where Topher Grace is these days and maybe what he did with his career, did he make a decision to leave? Did he just stop getting roles? Share it in the comments section with everybody so we can all look that up. Sharon Aurora writes, Cavaliers literally blew up. Yeah, Cavs. Cavs actually made some great moves today. They had to blow that thing up. They had to blow that team up. I mean, they're still like 5 or 6 games over 500, but they sent Dwayne Wade, who they never should have signed. Look, Dwayne Wade is going to go down as a Hall of Famer for sure, but he's way past his prime, man. And I don't know why they ever signed him in the first place. The Isaiah Thomas thing was a bust. They never should have signed that because he's just broken down. He's just never fully recovered. So they made some good moves today to unload a bunch of stuff, get a couple of decent pieces back from the LA Lakers. And the LA Lakers, it was good for them too. They freed up a bunch of cap space. But anyway, I don't want to get into it too deep. But yeah, they are reorganizing their team in a desperate attempt to try to get LeBron to stay at the end of the season. Luke Woodward just sends in a super chat to support me. Thank you so much, Luke. Chris Parker writes, Bradley Cooper. Haven't seen much of him lately. Turns out his last leading role was in 2015's Aloha. 3 years is a long time. Well, I just saw Bradley Cooper at the Super Bowl. He was, of course, in the owner's box. He was in the owner box with the Philadelphia Eagles owner. Let's see what he's got coming up here. Just looking up his IMDb. And he's got like, oh God, yeah, he's got... Well, no, he did Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which was in 2017. He did a film called War Dogs. He was in War Dogs. I don't remember him being in War Dogs. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was in War Dogs with Jonah Hill. That's right. And Miles Teller. He was in that. He was actually pretty good in that. Actually, I really like that movie, War Dogs. So he was in that. So he's been in a bunch, but he's got like 4 movies listed as either in pre-production, post-production, or completed. Deeper, Atlantic Wall, Avengers Infinity War, and A Star is Born. And that one's complete. It comes out later this year. So yeah, maybe he just took a little bit of a break, but it doesn't look like he took that much of a break. So he's been keeping himself busy. All right, what's next here? Maybe One Name writes, always thought that Groot explaining why he doesn't like hats in Guardians 2 was just a joke about how a number of MCU heroes don't have their headgear from the comics, i.e. Hawkeye, Thor, etc. If that was an inside joke, it was like 8 layers deep. I mean, it's an interesting observation. I never thought of it that way. So if it is supposed to be an inside joke, then it's an inside joke that is so many layers deep, only 5 or 6 people in the world, apparently you are one of them, would actually get it. So it's a pretty bad inside joke if that's what it is. Hardy Buck 4 writes, are you a fan of Larry David? I think he's hilarious. If we're talking about the same guy who does Curb Your Enthusiasm, yes, the dude is freaking hilarious. That dude is just so naturally funny, it's crazy. I can't help but smile just when I see his face. It's crazy good. Luke Woodward writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Luke. Have you ever seen The Fountain starring Hugh Jackman? Yep. It's a little weird, but I like it. Yeah, sometimes weird can be really cool, but sometimes weird is just weird. And I often found The Fountain was just weird for the sake of being weird. I didn't hate it. I certainly didn't hate it. But I always felt like The movie thought it was more clever than it actually was. That's just kind of how I interpreted it. So yeah, I was never a huge fan, but I was never one of those people either went, that movie is terrible. I'm just never one of those people. To me, it's like, okay, yeah, it's really ambitious. They do some really interesting things you don't see in a lot of movies, but I just felt like the movie thought it was smarter than it was. But that's just how I interpret it. But I know a lot of my buddies really like The Fountain. A lot of my buddies really like that film. So you're in good company, Luke. Let's see. Hardy Buck writes, still no Aquaman or Hawkeye in Avengers. Oh, Ant-Man, Aquaman. Still no Aquaman in the Avengers trailer. Still no Ant-Man or Hawkeye in the Avengers trailer. Yeah, they're probably holding off on Ant-Man. And remember, we've seen the magazine covers with Paul Rudd in with the cast of the movie. So we know him and Wasp. Wasp has been on the covers with them too. So we know they're both in the movie. Just haven't put them in the trailers yet. I bet they'll be in one. I'm willing to bet we'll see them in at least one of them. Andy Break writes, over under 40% that we see Jabba in Solo. I'll take the under on that. I honestly don't think we're going to see Jabba in Solo. So I will take the big under on that. Hardy Buck writes, Irish fan, appreciate the work you put in every day. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Go Notre Dame. Sam Fisher writes, have you ever seen Orphan Black and the YouTube web series Because Science? Never heard of Because Science, so I can't comment on that. I did watch season 1 of Orphan Black, and I'll admit, I didn't like it as much as most people did. Just being honest, I mean, I could try to act cool, because I know everybody loves it, and try to fit in, but I gotta be honest with you, I got through season 1, I thought it was okay, but I was just never motivated to watch season 2. So I'm one of those rare fish that actually wasn't all that thrilled with Orphan Black. Terrific performances in it, though. David Crabtree writes, it depends on how invested Bay is in the material. He hated the last 2 Transformers films, but 13 Hours was amazing and my favorite film of 2016. I love the majority of his work. Yeah, I mean, I didn't love 13 Hours, but I thought it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I know a couple people that really like that movie an awful lot. And, you know, it just shows, it's not a matter of him being invested. I just think when he's in his right element, when Michael Bay is in his right element, he can shine as a director. This is not his right element, in my opinion. He has a long track record of failure in this element, I feel. So it's a matter of fit, and I just don't think it's a fit. Interesting observation, David. Sam Fisher writes, Because Science is a series where a guy breaks down nerdy things using actual science, like what a binary star sunset would look like. Interesting. I've never heard of it, never seen it, but I will. That actually sounds kind of cool. I will probably check that out. Anthony C. writes, thank you for answering my question that you missed. You are the real MVP. What do you think of the Cavaliers trades today? Got rid of all the new people. Well, they got rid of, like I mentioned earlier, they got rid of the pieces that just weren't working. The Kyrie trade was a bust. I mean, I understand they had to trade him for something, but they took back broken goods in Isaiah Thomas. Hopefully he can turn things around in Los Angeles. But they unloaded what they needed to unload. What they were running with was not a championship team. And the Cavaliers aren't just trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to make a serious run for a championship. And the pieces of the puzzle they had together were not going to make a run for the championship. And if you cannot put the right pieces together to make a run for a championship, LeBron's going to leave. And then you're right back to being a last place team in the league again, like you were when you left last time. Matthew Ware writes, how about a Jekyll and Hyde story where Peter Parker is still mutating into the form of the man spider? I'm thinking Banner could be in it to help Peter find his way. Nah, to me, that's a little bit too much of a deep cut. I don't think the average film goer would be on board for that, to be honest with you. I'm not even sure I would be on board for that. I never found that story particularly interesting. So, look, realistically speaking, we are one movie into Spider-Man. Let's get 6 or 7 or 8 Spider-Man movies before we start doing like really fringe stuff, like Man Spider or anything else like that. Let's get a few more films deep. So, I'll be honest with you, I don't see Marvel wanting to go that direction, and I'm not honestly all that interested in it. Right now, like I said, give me 5 more Spider-Man films and then start talking about doing like fringe stories like that. Then I'll probably be on board for it. Then you've got the movie-going audience, because remember, 95% of the movie-going audience have never read a comic book. So you do like 5 Spider-Man movies. Now you got the audience familiar with the character. They're on board with the character. Now you can go several more layers into some of the source material if you want, and they'll come along with you. You try to bust something like that out after one movie, after two movies, you're probably just going to not interest. You'll just lose a lot of the audience. I think. Could be wrong about that, though. Interesting point you bring up there, Matthew. Ben Rayner writes, comic book movie fans united by Bay directing Lobo. Yes, maybe this was the thing. What is something that can bring Marvel fans and the DC fans together? A mutual disgust for the concept of Michael Bay directing Lobo. Finally, something to unite the two warring sides in this toxic fan war. This will be the thing that will usher in a glorious new future. Let's see, NV8 writes, where did it go? I lost NV8. Oh gosh, I lost my spot, guys. There we go. NV8 Pride says, Alex Garland's Annihilation first reactions are out. I haven't seen it yet, so I'll have to go and look those up. Anthony C. writes, why did you like Superman Returns? It disappointed me. I thought it was a brilliant movie. Here's the thing. I've always said this about Superman Returns. That Superman Returns is a great movie. It's just not a great comic book movie. It's not a great Superman movie. But like when you really look at what Bryan Singer was doing with Superman Returns, it was all character driven. It was a look at this god, Superman, who can literally do everything. Except he doesn't even know how to talk to the woman he loves. He still doesn't understand how to just be human, how to just fit in. He doesn't understand. And so somebody who is completely invulnerable, being so vulnerable at the same time. I loved the movie for what it was on that level. It was something really we've never seen in a comic book movie before when he did it. However, the mistake I think they did make with the movie was they forgot that it was a Superman movie at the same time. And like the biggest action scene was Superman fighting a falling jet. Like Superman getting under and lifting a jet up. That's the big action scene. Superman punching stuff, like inanimate objects and moving furniture. I mean, that was the action in the movie. And you needed to find a way to make it both all this brilliant stuff, but also pepper in, understands a Superman movie, still a comic book movie. You got to have some action. You got to have, an antagonist. You got to have all that kind of stuff. And they just didn't have that. So it disappointed a lot of people, while at the same time, I think being a very smart movie. So that's why I liked it. Paul writes, The Fugitive is one of my favorite movies, all the one with Harrison Ford, damn right. I also really like the sequel, U.S. Marshals. I didn't like that one as much. Why does the sequel get so much hate? I can't see the big difference. Oh, I see the big difference. I do. They just basically try to do the same thing in a worse way than they did in the original. Like the Tommy Lee Jones character is fantastic. And I love the idea of doing another movie just surrounding that character. But, I mean, the Wesley Snipes character was not a fun character. You never got as attached emotionally in that whole plot as you did with Harrison Ford's character and his plight and his goals that he was going through. And that's why it fell so much short, for me at least, than the original one. The original is so good, though. You and me are totally on the same page with that one, Paul. I love The Fugitive. If you haven't watched Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones' The Fugitive, watch it. It's fantastic. Just a fun, great, smart movie. Let's see. Samuel Pole writes, it's stories like this that make me feel really bad for DC diehard fans. It's an abusive relationship, and they just got introduced to their drunk uncle. The thing that really astounds me is that how, aside from the DCEU, Warner Brothers is such a great studio that have made smart, shrewd decisions over the years, put out some great award-winning stuff. They really seem to have their stuff together. And then for whatever reason, when it comes to their DCEU, they're like a fish in a boat, just flapping around. Well, let's go this way. Let's go this way. And they're just like a fish flapping around on a boat. And they're such a good studio. Outside of that, I just don't know why. And then Michael Bay, sure, yeah. Why not get Michael Bay to go direct a James Bond movie too? Yeah, that would be great. Let's just have Michael Bay direct James Bond. That would be fantastic. Anyway, Ethan Hunt writes, why is The Last Jedi praised as a movie that moves Star Wars in a new direction, as opposed to what direction? Before Disney, it wasn't going anywhere else. The saga was a story about the Skywalkers originally. It's not a club. Thanks. Well, I know I really give a lot of kudos to The Last Jedi. And look, you all know I have my issues with The Last Jedi. I do. It doesn't stop me from really still thinking overall it was a really good movie. And I love what they did with Luke in it, even though it's not what I wanted them to do with Luke. I still love what they ended up doing with Luke. But it's, narrative structure-wise, it's just such a different film than anything they've ever done. And I think that was the notion that a lot of people are like, they are taking this in a direction they've never gone. Like, it's so different from everything else they've done. I mean, especially coming off of all the criticism that they got for, I mean, and people really liked The Force Awakens, but it got a lot of criticism for that it didn't do anything new. So along comes Last Jedi doing almost everything new, and you get a lot of people criticizing them for that. So it's whatever. They're in a tough spot. But that's why I think people like myself really enjoyed it. And you're right. The saga wasn't going anywhere. I mean, the coming out of the prequel era, the story wasn't going anywhere. The saga, I like the way you word this. The saga was a story about the Skywalkers originally. That's great. But you got to move on from the Skywalkers. Star Wars has evolved to being, even before The Force Awakens came out, Star Wars as a universe has evolved way beyond the Skywalkers. Way beyond it. Whether you're looking at stuff like Old Republic, or you're talking about The Expanse, or you're talking about whatever. The epic of Star Wars is far bigger than just the Skywalkers. Yes, the original 6 films, really, there's the original 3 and then those other 3 films. Other than The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace, Anakin is a character in it, but it's not, The Phantom Menace is not about Anakin. But, you know, you can make an argument then that the second and third of the prequels are. But, yeah, you can make that case that that part of the story was about the Skywalkers. But that doesn't mean everything in Star Wars is always going to be about the Skywalkers. It's not. And guess what? When they go to Old Republic, there's no Skywalkers there. So Star Wars needs to move. They absolutely have to move beyond the Skywalkers. Start telling the next chapter. And I often use this analogy, but it's like there was a period of time when you could say the story of America was the story of the Kennedys. There was a period of time, a sliver window of time that you could say in this era, really the story of America is the story of the Kennedys. But the story of America is really so much more than the Kennedys. Now, the Kennedys are an important part of the American story. Yes, absolutely. But the story of America moves on from the Kennedys, and it's much bigger than the Kennedys. And that's how I feel about Star Wars. Yes, these films were about the Skywalkers, but Star Wars is about so much more and needs to go off in those directions. And you're talking to the universe's biggest Luke Skywalker fan, but he's just one character in a vast, vast universe filled with endless potential of storytelling. So anyway, Ethan, that's just how I feel about it. I get very emotional about it. I get very worked up about it, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. Good observations. All right. Cameron Peterson, by the way, guys, if you have not sent in a super chat yet, I've got as many as I can handle, so don't send any more super chats if you've not sent any in yet. All right. Cameron Peterson writes, are you thrilled that the 50 Shades trilogy is over? No. I mean, look, I don't like the 50 Shades movies, but I know firsthand. Actually, I went with a friend of mine last night who came with me to my screening, and she is a fan of those movies. She likes them. I don't have to go watch. I mean, I need to see them to review them, but I don't have to go back and watch them again if I don't want to. Why would I celebrate that she doesn't get more of the movies she likes? There are people out there who like the 50 Shades movies. More power to them. I don't understand it, but you know what? More power to them. That's fine. But it's just, it's not for me. Hey, let's do another check-in on that poll, shall we? We're now up to over 2,400 votes. So about 400 to 500 more votes have come in since we last checked in, and it's still holding 16% to 84%. I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest with you, that 16% number is higher than I thought it would be. Okay, anyway, let's go on to the next topic. You can tell my voice is starting to go now. I've been talking a lot today. This is my 4th video today. Cherry Wong writes, hey, John, will you be doing another Ask Me Anything soon? I have some questions regarding how you got your channel career to where it is now. Thanks for being a great inspiration. Love your passion for the movies. Yes, I think actually next week I'm going to do another Ask Me Anything, which is a video that you can ask some movie questions if you want, but really it's a time to ask about anything else. You can ask technical questions, business questions, behind the scenes questions, questions about me if you'd like. That's a time to do that. We did one last month, or was it like 2 months ago we did one, and it was a lot of fun, and we're going to do another one probably next week. Keep your eyes open for that. All right, next one. Rick Salazar writes, first double fuck, then Jay Washington hit job. Now they're asking for Patreon support for Schmodown. Guess layoffs weren't enough. I smell a rat, Don Giovanni. Corporate overlords gone to shit since you left. Not my place to comment. Not my place to comment. It'd be inappropriate for me to make a comment on any of that stuff. They're doing what they feel they need to do. What they do with Patreon is nothing to do with me. The stuff like how they hijacked me on the Jake Gyllenhaal stuff. Yes, I got really pissed at that. We've addressed the Jay Washington situation. And by the way, in case you didn't know, Jay Washington has since got on Twitter and apologized. So that's put to rest. Good on Jay. That's put to rest. That's not an issue anymore. The other stuff you're talking about, the people they've laid off and, the Patreon stuff, that is stuff that they are doing that they feel they need to do. And it's not my place to comment on it. Hey, running a business is tough. Running a business is tough. Especially when you have like 20 whatever staff and your budgets are so high and all that kind of stuff. It's tough. And sometimes you have to do things that you think are right for your business. And sometimes other people may agree or disagree, and that's fine. But, they're just doing what they feel they need to do. And beyond that, I'm not going to make any comment. And I'm sure you understand why. Darryl Best Wadley writes, oh, and I lost it. There it is. Darryl Best Wadley writes, hey, John, have you ever watched Blue Mountain State? Not the best show, but it has its moments. The movie sucked, though. I did try watching a little bit of Blue Mountain State. And I got to admit, man, I didn't even grin. And it's funny because it looked like a show that is totally tailor-made for my sense of humor. But I watched a little bit of it and I'm like, I didn't even grin. So I don't think I watched the movie. But I did watch some of the show and I admit I bailed on it. But it looks like you got some kick out of it, and that's good. That's great. As long as somebody got some enjoyment out of it, I'm happy. Cobra writes, if Bay does DC, can Snyder do Transformers? I think that franchise would suit Snyder's style. I'd like to see Snyder do some original stuff. I mean, let's put it this way. If they announced tomorrow that Zack Snyder was going to do a Transformers film for Paramount, I'd be intrigued. Wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd be intrigued. I would be intrigued by that. Look, Snyder's a great visual storyteller, and there is no film franchise that is more visual than the Transformers. So, yeah, I think I'd be down with that. I could handle seeing that. Let's see. NV8 Pride writes, S. Craig Zoller is such an underrated director in my opinion. He is 2 for 2 with Bone Tomahawk and Brawl in Cell Block 99. Bone Tomahawk was a kind of a revelation of a movie. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The scene. Oh my God. The scene. If you haven't seen Bone Tomahawk, you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you've seen Bone Tomahawk, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It'll be interesting to see. It's hard to call him underrated after just 2 films, but I am very curious. I mean, he is a director we need to keep our eye on. If he puts out another one that's of equal quality, then we got to start taking this guy really, really seriously. John Hine writes, I watched True Grit on your recommendation. Loved it. Yeah, I really like True Grit. And, it's one of those examples that I actually think the remake was better than the original. So with Jeff Bridges, I thought the remake was actually better than was it Haley Steinfeld? Or was it one of the other young girl actresses? Anyway, I really like True Grit. Glad you saw it. Glad you enjoyed it, John. Shreyas writes, do you think there will be a comic book villain that will be more memorable than Heath Ledger's Joker? I sure hope so. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know when. I don't know who. I don't know by what studio. I don't know in which movie, but it will happen. That's the thing about records. And I know this isn't a sports thing, but they say in sports, a record is made to be broken. Every record eventually gets broken. Every best of all time eventually gets exceeded. And there will someday, be it a Marvel, a DC, somebody else, there will be a comic book movie villain that comes out that they crush even more than they crushed Heath Ledger's The Joker. It almost sounds sacrilegious to say that out loud, but it's the truth. Eventually it'll happen. And if it doesn't, then that means film isn't progressing and it needs to progress and get better. So yes, I do think it will happen. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but sometime it's going to happen. Anthony R. writes, if they decide to do an Old Republic movie, is it possible that it takes place 500 years ago with 400-year-old today, but not actually focused? Let me see if I can understand you right, Anthony. If they decide to do an Old Republic movie, is it possible to takes place 500 years ago with 400-year-old today, but not actually focused on him? I'll be honest, Anthony. I don't know what it is you're asking, so I gotta hop over your question. I'm sorry about that. I'm not quite putting the pieces together of what it is you're asking. Sorry about that, man. If you guys in the comments know what he's talking about, discuss amongst yourself. Throw in some opinions there. Give Anthony the answer he's looking for, because I can't interpret the question. Anthony C. writes, did the DCU shake up not change anything? I don't know. It's too early to tell. And you know what? I said this before when they were installing, they demoted Jeff Johns, they got rid of the one guy, they brought in the new guy, blah, blah, blah. I said, and I mean this, we're not even going to see what the changes look like until after Aquaman is done. Because Aquaman's already shot, that's done, it's in the can. We're not really going to see the tangible changes or differences or effects of this until after Aquaman. Not Aquaman, after Aquaman. So we're talking minimum 2019, 2020 before we're really going to see what the effects were of this shakeup that they did. So, but I'm telling you what, if one of the first things they do after the shakeup is hiring Michael Bay, then I'm losing a lot of hope, man. I'm losing a lot of hope. KHK Productions writes, I've always agreed with you that there's never truly been a movie about the bad guys until I went through my DVD collection. Would the Devil's Rejects not qualify? Yeah, it was hard to say. That one might. I didn't think it was very good, but that one might. It was also a very small film that very few people have actually seen. I know a few friends of mine that consider that Rob Zombie's best film. I don't know that Rob Zombie's ever made a film that I even like. But, discuss amongst yourselves, guys. Do you think The Devil's Rejects would actually qualify as a movie about the bad guys? It's a really interesting thing to bring up, KHK. You guys discuss. What do you guys think about that? It's an interesting idea. Dirk Walker writes, regardless of what happens with the Fox/Disney deal, won't Disney still get back rights to the Fantastic Four since their time is running out to make a new movie? Well, what is probably in the agreement they have is that the clock is probably stopped. While they work out all this stuff, the clock is stopped. I guarantee you Fox put that in the deal. Because that is the first thing that if I'm Fox's attorney, that, okay, any ticking clock on existing IP freezes while the negotiations and the deals are worked out. So that's probably a foregone conclusion. If, for whatever reason, whether the government shuts down the deal, or whether Disney backs out, or whether Fox backs out, then X-Men, Fantastic Four will all stay with Fox. And the clock will probably reset. What will happen is Fox cannot sell. Like if Comcast wants to come along and buy Fox after that, X-Men and Fantastic Four just go back to Disney, because I do not believe they can transfer those things out. So, I mean, there's so many, like, I remember saying this when the deal was first announced. There are a million details in this deal that we just don't know about. And it's going to take us probably years until we know what all the details really were. So we've got a long wait ahead of us, and a lot of details in these deals we'll just have to wait and see. It's good that you're thinking on that level, though, Dirk. You're trying to think analytically, and that's good. I just think the very first thing that would go into any sort of a deal like this is a freezing of the clock on any expiring IPs. That gets frozen until all this is settled. then they resume with the clocks. There's no way I would enter into negotiations. No way a lawyer worth their salt would enter into negotiations while letting, because who knows how long negotiations run out. Disney could just use the negotiations and drag them out just so they can get their rights back anyway for free, right? So any lawyer with their salt in a situation like this, they would put a freeze on that counting clock. Oh, Anthony's saying I meant Yoda. Oh, so it's 500 years ago with a 400-year-old Yoda. I mean, yeah, you could, but it goes back to the same thing. You've probably getting tired of hearing me say, Anthony, which is like, I'm not interested in a younger Yoda. I'm not interested in a younger TK421. I'm not interested in a younger Tarkin. I'm not interested in a younger, I don't know, whoever else you want to say, the younger versions of the Trade Federation's guys. I'm not interested. I want new stories. If you're going to go back 500 years, just tell a story of 500 years ago without Yoda. That's how I feel at any rate. And I know you guys are probably getting sick of hearing me saying that, but that is just how I feel about it. All right. Got a couple of minutes left here. I Am Blue writes, 3 MCU films in 6 months. What a time to be alive. Well, dear heavens. I mean, we're getting 3 MCU films in a window of 3 weeks. We're going to get, sorry, I'm thinking of something different. Yes, 3 MCU films in 6 months. What a time to be alive. It's incredible. And then we talked today earlier on the John Campea show about May. May alone, like a 3.5 week window, we're getting Infinity War, we're getting Solo, and we're getting Deadpool 2. Crazy. Now we're getting Black Panther, Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, all within half a year. I mean, it is a great time to be a comic book movie fan. P. Cheek writes, it's canon that in Star Wars, people can be born of midichlorians like Anakin. Have they ever tried to explain why it's apparently never happened again? Well, they've never really ever explained how it ever happened even once. So, if it's only happened once in the entire history of Star Wars, why would it happen again? And that is actually one of the things about the prequels, the virgin birth stuff, that I think you'll never hear them mention again. You'll never hear them say midichlorians again in a Star Wars movie, let alone the virgin birth theory. Those are two of the stupider things they ever did. In there, especially when you understand the Force works. They didn't need a magic father. They just needed an average guy with an average woman, had a kid, and that kid was born with the Force. But I am totally convinced you will never hear a Star Wars movie ever mention midichlorians again. They will never mention that again. Let's see. Adam K. writes, I loved how Jon Favreau took the Jungle Book and improved it. Is there any way he can do the same with The Lion King? Many think it's already perfect. Well, yeah, but remember, it's going to be its own movie. Yes, it's the same story and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's going to be a very different viewing experience than watching the animated film. So I think we as audiences have to approach it like that. That we are not just going in to watch another version of The Lion King. We're going in to watch a new movie called The Lion King and evaluate it on itself. So yeah, the original Lion King is my all-time favorite animated film. You guys know this. If you watch me for any period of time, that is my all-time favorite animated film. But I'm still super excited. And it doesn't have to be better than the other one. Just be its own movie and create a story, tell the story. Even though it's a story that's been told before, tell it in your way and give us a memorable experience. And that's all we can ask for. Rodrigo Ramirez writes, favorite rapper ever? Favorite rapper ever. I'm going to go back a little bit. There was Kool Moe Dee. Probably Kool Moe Dee. I was like really into Kool Moe Dee back in the day. So yeah, I'm just going to go Kool Moe Dee. There it is. That's my favorite rapper ever. Mr. Manager writes, you've said you are reviewing The Witcher 3. Just FYI, the game has 36 different endings. I get you might be strapped for time, but I can't emphasize how much you are missing by not playing the game. Oh, I've got it on my computer. I just don't have a lot of time to play it. But I am going to try to watch it. I'm just going to have to, even if it has different endings, I'm just going to have to, take whatever ending is there. Really, I'm going to know whether or not I enjoy it or not before I get to the ending. So that's fine. So I should be pretty good there. I just got to find a version that's not like 16 hours long. So I can sit down and watch it, you know what I mean? David Crabtree writes, It's sad to see the house that Campea built being totally gutted. A shame. Look, again, you know what? I actually had dinner last week. I had a very nice dinner with my old boss from the former corporate overlords. Had a really good time with them. We had a great chat, good discussion. And look, I am unhappy, everybody knows, with a couple of things, yes. But, you know, it is my house that I built. And as such, I am always going to want to see it succeed. And I have deep affection for a number of the people that are still there. And because of that, I will also always want to see it succeed. And, you know, look, a lot of people ask me, I'm just going to be straight with you guys. A lot of people have asked me, why won't you ever say Collider? The reason I've chosen never to say Collider is for a couple of reasons. One, especially my first number of months doing my own thing, I really wanted to emphasize that I am not a part of that anymore. You know, so I don't ever want for people to still think of me, like I still get people writing to John, please come back on Jedi Council. John, please come back and do the DVD commentary list. And it's just like a lot of people maybe in one level know that I'm not with them anymore, but on another level, they just kind of still see me as Collider. I am Collider. And part of the reason I would never even say the word was to really purposefully try to emphasize the distinction between myself and that other thing. I am not that other thing anymore. And so I wouldn't even mention it. The other reason I would never say it is because I would want to be very careful how people love to take and online, people love to take and twist your words. I have my words taken out of context and twisted all the time, which is part of the reason why in my communication style, a lot of people recognize that I repeat a number of things. That is a communication tool. And it kind of safeguards me against people purposefully taking my words and twisting them, especially when I repeat. And even when I still repeat and hammer on an important point a number of times, there are still people who misinterpret me sometimes. But my God, when I don't repeat important points, I get 50 tweets. John, how come you're saying this? Oh my God, that's not what I was saying. Anyway. And so I just would never say Collider, to never have somebody take something I said with Collider in the statement and twist it and make it seem negative. So, so all I'm going to say is that I am cheering for their success. I hope they do well, and I hope things continue that things turn around and go really well. It is ultimately my legacy. I started that whole thing. 90% of the people that are there are people that I hired. I'm always going to have a part of my heart is going to be there, even when certain people, you know, they're you know, merry band of idiots that run their website. I'm always going to have part of my heart connected to that video team, and I want them to do well. So regardless of what happens, sometimes I'll be mad at certain things, whatever, but at the end of the day, I want them to succeed and I want them to do well. So anyway, there's that. Thanks a lot for bringing that up, David. Hardy Buck writes, did you see Marvel 10-year anniversary photo shoot? Yes, I did. Actually, those pictures were taken all the way back in October. Very, very sweet picture. Very sweet pictures. I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff that they put out as time goes on here. Corgan Bunetta, last 3 questions now. Hey, John, finally have the chance to watch you live. Yay! Just wondering if you have a favorite episode of Seinfeld. Master of Your Own Domain. Master of Your Own Domain is probably my favorite episode of Seinfeld all time. I mean, really, you could list like 20 of them that are in that top tier. But that's the one I always go to. That's my go-to. When I have a friend, it's happened a couple times, that has never seen an episode of Seinfeld, I will start with Master of Your Domain. That's my one. Jesse the Savage writes, did you the black line on Tom Hardy's neck? I think what you're asking, did I see the black line on Tom Hardy's neck in the Venom trailer? I didn't. I saw some other people mentioning that earlier. And that is not something I noticed. So no, I didn't notice it. And the final live question today comes to us from Dirk Diggler. As a DC fan, is there a way to reach Warner Brothers / Time Warners and provide some ideas on how their next installment of superhero movies can be successful? They won't listen. Look, any studio will not listen to fans writing in trying to tell them how to do their business. That is never going to happen. Warner Brothers doesn't do it. Disney doesn't do it. Paramount doesn't do it. Sony doesn't do it. No way, no how. Nor should you. If you're a studio head, you should never listen to random fans sending in their things. So no, there's no way to do that other than use your own social media. But really, there's no way, and no studio executive worth their salt would listen anyway, to be honest with you. All right, one last time, let's check in with this poll, this Michael Bay poll. We're getting close to 2,800 votes now, and the number has stayed the same. 16%. Let me just reload just to make sure that's not like a mistake. Let's see what it's still at. It is at, yep, still 16%. 16% say yes, they want Michael Bay directing a Lobo movie. And I mean, that's ridiculously low number, but I gotta tell you, it is much higher than I thought it was going to be for sure. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this installment of Open Mic. I love open mics. I'm really glad we're doing this. Thank you guys so much for being here and participating and supporting the channel, by the way. By using Super Chat, you guys are supporting the channel and helping, along with my Patreon supporters, keeping this channel up and running. And I am deeply appreciative of that and what you guys do. So thank you so much for that. Don't forget, guys, leave a comment below. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not subscribed to it already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Just follow me at John Campea. You can see that right there. And that's that, guys. I'll be back again tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about this Michael Bay stuff tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. on the John Campea Show. Make sure you guys join us and come back for that. That'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea. Thanks so much for joining me. And until the next video, bye-bye.